Hello and welcome to the Bears and Beers podcast. Hello and welcome. We are the unofficial podcast of the Sydney Bears Australian Ice Hockey League team. Thank you for joining us. We are live from the lobby of the QT Hotel in Canberra on Sunday night. First of all, Matt, how are you going tonight?
I don't think we should have disclosed that we were live from the lobby. I was going to say we've upgraded our Bears and Beers HQ, and this is the new studio. But yes, I'm very well. Enjoyed your company all day and just had a splendid meal across the road. So yeah, very well indeed. Thank you.
Nathan, how are you going today as well?
Yeah, very well, thank you, gents. We've had a nice mix of hockey and some touring on the road, some good food and beverage, and I'm pretty excited for this one in our new residence.
Yeah, should be good. So, let's crack onto it. This is going to be fairly loose, just in case you're listening. We are recording this Sunday night after dinner. We do have some beers as well. So we each have. Oh, that's yours. Yep. Yeah. Sorry, I just tried to take Matt's beer. We're off to a flyer. Nathan, do you want to run through the non-Bears related results for the weekend?
I'd love to. Starting on the Saturday, we had Perth Thunder over the Central Coast Rhinos at Arena 7-2. The Lightning beat the Adrenaline in a close one 5-4 in Boondall. Melbourne Mustangs 6 over the North Stars 5 in the Hunter. And earlier today, we had the Thunder 3-1 winners over the Lightning in Boondall. And the Mustangs ran out to a victory over the Sydney Ice Dogs at Macquarie 8-3.
Yeah, so Perth did well, getting 3 wins from 3 games over the weekend. Any particular standout takeaways from the out-of-town results, Matt?
Yeah, I think that, as you said, the Perth results are outstanding, given 3 games in 3 nights, all on the road. So hats off to Perth. That's quite an achievement, I think, to get max points from those games.
And then in the Bears game, let's move into it. Saturday, we had really good game at Macquarie Ice Rink. Back and forth hockey, real arm wrestle, tied after each period, goes into overtime. The Canberra Brave end up taking the 7-6 overtime win. We get a point, which turns out to be a pretty important point. Let's start dissecting it. What did we see, guys? What was trending?
Yeah, look, I think you saw 2 good teams going to battle. Again, it was a packed house at Macquarie, really good crowd in. Again, good energy in the building. We ran out to a 1-0 lead. I thought in the first period both teams probably exchanged a relatively even spread of the play. Both teams skating relatively well. I thought, again, our forecheck to start that game was pretty strong. Certainly some opportunities exchanged. Shot totals were pretty consistent across the board, and I thought, heading into that first intermission, it was probably as even as you could probably get coming out of first 20 minutes of play.
Yeah, 1-1, I think, at the interval. Shots were 11-12 in favour of the Brave. Goat got us on the board early with a power play goal, which was great to see. And my note to say, bright start. Ruben was on the top line with Lucas and Gustav. I think the top line had a really, really positive first period. So, pretty much in alignment with you guys. Hard work, good start, pretty even Steven. Brave are a good side.
Yeah, and they were the form team heading into the match. They had topped the competition for most points in June, had climbed from 9th up to 4th. Up to 5th rather. Sorry, before the weekend, tied on points with us and the Sydney Ice Dogs. second period, we got out to a bit of a lead. There was a 5-minute major called in our favour. So we had power play, scored 2 goals in the first minute. And then a little bit of a battle after that.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, guys. On the Saturday, I spent quite a bit of time with a lot of our partners in the stands, so there was probably limited viewing action from me, and I actually missed the play that involved Dex that led to the major penalty. So I'll let you guys sort of, provide your opinion of that incident. But for our guys to convert twice on that major penalty, which was obviously a huge moment in the game, certainly swung the pendulum in our favour. And I thought, again, the rink was pretty receptive to the guys with those 2 quick markers, and you probably thought, gee, with maybe 3 minutes left, could we sneak a third? It wasn't to be, but I think that was certainly a defining moment in the game, and certainly, gave us a really strong level of momentum, in a period of the game that we really should have taken advantage of, and we did so.
Yeah, and it was a big game for a number of players. I thought Logan Brody, he came off of winning the AIHL Player of the Week last weekend, and had a really strong start to the game as well for the Bears. And yeah, the Dexter Moselle, like, I've only seen it. I only saw it once on the small screen, the replay when I was doing the commentary. At first, impressions were that it felt like it was a generous call for us to get the 5-minute major, but we've been on the other end of those calls as well. Your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair summary. I mean, Dex is a very smart young man, let's say, and I think he used his experience, and we capitalised on it. Again, scoring 2 goals on a 5-minute power play is a great result for us. Louis Olive got 2 assists in those 2 power play goals. So heads up stuff from Dex. We would expect nothing less. Great opportunity for us to capitalise. That had us out in the lead, and then the Brave did what the Brave do. They just grind you down and claw their way back into the game. I think over the course of the game on Saturday, the impressions that I was left of the Brave were just a very, very well organised team. They exit the zone well. They chip the puck out. They go get it back in the offensive zone. When they have puck possession, their controlled entries are very strong. So they're a team with a plan, and they execute that plan really well. I was super impressed with their zone entries all weekend, and we gave ourselves a little bit of breathing space, but then the Brave do what they do. They just fight their way back into games.
Yeah, I thought that top line, former Bear Jake Ratcliffe, was really, really effective against us. 3 points in that game, and Peter Bates, his skating was really impressive to me as well. His ability to quickly change direction and make defenders commit and then completely shift gears was pretty special. Casey Kabara, of course, doing Casey Kabara things, but we went into the third period, went down twice, 5-4 and then 6-5, and Gustav Remler Jensen, he scored twice to tie things up. He's a young player that we've commented on a lot on this podcast, but it felt like he's come up in big moments a lot this season.
Yeah, I think Goose just really continuing, in the same vein that we've been referring to over the last few weeks. He's seeing a lot of minutes. He's seeing big opportunities. L1, PP2. Making the most of those opportunities. He's strong on his skates, strong stick. He's a heads-up kind of guy. Certainly fantastic to see him taking his opportunities. And I did feel for periods of this game, quite often it was probably, our top group versus their top group. Kabara, Bates, Ratcliffe, Raddy's a guy that we all know so well. We know, what areas of the ice he likes to occupy, but he's so good. He's so efficient at doing what he does, and he obviously did some damage there, but certainly back to Goose. He's been a continual threat for us this season, and he was absolutely huge in this game, and probably one of our driving forces, I think, on a consistent basis throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we missed Nick enormously, and for Ruben to step up onto the wing in Nick's place. Ruben, again, 2 great games this weekend. We'll talk more about his game today shortly, but he picked up an assist on the game-tying goal. But I thought the 2 boys, Goose's stick handling for the 5th goal was awesome, and then a great shot. So the future's bright. I think when we let the events of this weekend settle in, and obviously we look back at the scorecard, we've got to just remember that these kids are growing with every single game, and Ruben and Goose are just standing up and really being counted. So 2 great goals from Gustav in clutch goal, the equaliser, 1 minute 29 before the buzzer, and the boys showed an enormous amount of character to claw back. They put the Brave under a lot of pressure in those closing stages, and almost willed the puck home, which is great to see.
Yeah, and then overtime, I think the Brave, you saw the difference in experience between the 2 teams, and the Brave played that overtime really well. They kept possession of the puck well. They weren't afraid to exit the offensive zone after entering, just in order to be able to retain possession and wait for a really good chance. And we turn the puck over on a 1-on-3 in the offensive zone. They come back, and Justin Malin does really, really well to get onto the end of a good pass and deflect a past Kimmer. Kimmer really didn't have a chance on that one, right in front.
No, look, exactly right. And like any overtime period, you've got to be pretty clinical with the chances that are presented to you. I think before the Brave scored their eventual game winner, I do recall there was a play where Herms tried to find, Louis in tight on a skilled move. The pass didn't quite make it through, and then all of a sudden, Brave find the zone at the other end and end up capitalising, not too long after. It's the nature of OTs. Very unfortunate, obviously on the wrong side of the ledger, but I thought, both teams had their opportunities there, and ultimately the Brave were able to capitalise on theirs.
And it turned out to be an important point. It put us, a point over the Ice Dogs, broke that tiebreaker. And then we come into Sunday, one of only 3 teams in the month since the start of June that have taken points off the Brave, and head into the AIS Arena for the reverse fixture. But just a little bit of housekeeping. I don't want to move on too quickly. Any final thoughts on that game? I thought one takeaway was that Louis Olive had a new season high in points with 3, so 3 assists. I thought that Gustav Remler-Jensen kept his point streak rolling. Lucas Herman hit 100 career AIHL points in that game as well, and Ruben Nalos was noticeable.
Give Kevin Sadowski a shout out. He had 2 points, 2 assists as well in the game. So, but yeah, big ups to Lucas for reaching his milestone. I think, Gordy, you mentioned to us some of the stats around, the Brave and how teams have had to go through them to win the cup over the last, 7-8 years. We just saw a very well organised, battle-hard and polished team just edge us out at home. And I think, the takeaways from that game for me were, our boys were there or thereabouts in that game at Macquarie, slightly bigger ice surface. We certainly didn't disgrace ourselves, but I think just the experience and the application and the organisation of the Brave got them home, particularly in that overtime period where you could see that experience was just there to keep possession of the puck, be patient, move us around and create genuine scoring chances.
Yeah, some of those stats for the Brave since 2015. Yeah, they've either won the Goodall Cup or the eventual winner has had to defeat the Canberra Brave in finals. And since 2015, the Bears have only won one season series against the Brave, and that was in 2023. So there would be few arguments for the fact that they've probably been the best team in the competition since 2014, consistently made finals every one of those seasons, won 3 Goodall Cups more than anyone else. They're a very, very difficult team.
Yeah, as much as it pains, it's hard to disagree with that. And look back to those milestones. Obviously, all of them are important and impressive. But a particular shout out to Lucas Herman. Herms is a massive part of who we are and what we deliver on the ice. And he's wearing a C for a reason. He's a big part of the idea of our club and our team. So an absolutely fantastic milestone and achievement for him, and hopefully plenty more to come in Bears colours, that's for sure.
And then we move on to the Sunday, and Sunday heading to AIS. I know we'd spoken to Dexton Moselle last weekend, and you mentioned it's a something that the players hadn't experienced yet, playing in that environment. And it ended up being a really good start to the game for the Bears. Scored the first goal of the game for the 8th game in a row. And that was great work in the neutral zone by Gustav Remler Jensen and Ruben Nalos, and they combined on the goal. Ruben Nalos scored. No teddy bears were tossed on the ice at the time.
Sorry, did Nathan toss any teddy bears at all today? Or?
Let's move on.
One got misplaced
You're
in the
pest.
luggage at our new studio. Yeah. So, yes, and then, but the Brave responded quickly, and we ended up coming out of the period down by 1. Big shout out to the hospitality of the Canberra Brave, Stephen Campbell, and really made us feel welcome. And even if we weren't cheering for the Brave, we felt very safe and respected. And it was a lovely, it was the game day experience. Talk us through it, Nathan, like the pre-game elements.
Yeah, look, I think the AIS is a beautiful venue. Certainly look and feel, from the minute you walk into the rink, it feels like a very genuine, legitimate experience. And certainly opportunity for Steve to take us through the rink and the venue and the different vantage points in the rink. I don't think there's too many bad seats in the house. And certainly the way that we were attended to and made feel like we're a priority was certainly impressive. I must say that the production, the feel of the game, once you're down rink side and in a seat is certainly impressive and something that you could probably very fairly compare to that of an experience in North America or throughout Europe, perhaps. So they're certainly doing a great job. Not that we want to put Canberra on too much of a pedestal, but you certainly need to give credit where it's due. So certainly a big shout out and a big thanks to Steve and his staff for accommodating us to such a high standard today. And it was just a shame that we didn't walk out there with our chests out. Not that my chest is all that big, but you get the point.
No, I second that, Stephen Legend. Thank you for looking after us. The whole experience, just walking in through the front door, seeing the pictures of the players in the lobby, staff directing people to their seats. Yeah, very, very polished game day experience. So extremely enjoyable. But yeah, we were the first people to get up and cheer, which was great. I got a bit fed up with that goal song after a little while today, but
painful.
They did score a few, and we unfortunately got to be on the receiving end of a little bit of it. But yeah, Ruben got us on the board first. Hayden made a couple of good saves, I think, before our first goal was scored today. But the top line were buzzing again early doors.
Yeah, and we ended up special teams. Canberra have really climbed up the standings with their power play percentage, and they managed to score shorthanded against us as well. So a power play goal, shorthanded goal to close out the first period. Then we come in, Ruben Nalos, beautiful little backhand shot past Alexandra Tetro, which gave him his first career multi-goal game in the AIHL. But then the Brave close out the period 3 straight unanswered goals. We go to the third, and Noah Moncrief gets a really good shot off through a screen, or the defenseman was kind of obscuring the puck. And I thought Noah, the way he's played the last couple of weekends, he got a couple of really good assists against the Lightning. I thought he's deserved a goal for his play, so that was nice to see. So he gets his second goal of the season. But Matt, one of the themes that you've taken note of is when we score goals, there seems to be just a little bit of a trend sometimes.
Yeah, I just noticed over the last couple of games, we've scored a couple of goals, 2 or 3 goals, where we've then conceded very quickly afterwards, within a minute or 90 seconds of that goal going in. And that swing feels big. That game momentum swing, feels big. What that must feel like to the boys on the bench, I can't imagine. But look, things could have been very different today. Hugo Arps got a lot of ice time. He hit the post early, midway through the second, just before Ruben scored the equaliser. If Hugo had scored and then Ruben's goal would have gone in, that would have put us 3-2 up. Could have been slightly different, but Ruben's goal was super pretty. Popped the water bottle off the top of Tet's net. I was stood up in the hospitality section, which probably wasn't the done thing to do, but Stephen had been waving his arms around in our face in the first period. So hey ho, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
That's one of your better ones, Matt. Just give me a moment. I quite enjoyed that.
I don't know where they come from, but they come from somewhere.
Look, I think, and certainly a shout out to Ruben, that second goal in particular, but both goals were finished very well, but the second goal was pretty. Roofed it, and again, you're a tied game at that point. Like many periods of the game on Saturday, you're probably starting to feel, quite good about yourself. I think Canberra at this point, after our second went in, they really moved their game to another level, in my opinion. They were rotating some really quality shifts. Their management of the puck from the back end out was very, very polished. They were very composed. They made very good decisions coming out of their own zone, and that's what allowed their top guys to go to work. If you look at this game, again, very similar to Saturday's effort. Guys like your Cabaras, your Ratcliffes, your Bates, etc. It just allowed these guys to go to work, and I think they really did a good job of putting us on the back foot throughout their rotation. They built momentum, and again, our guys were pegged at points there. We were pegged in our own zone for 30, 40, 50 seconds at a time. And it just seemed like that was happening, too often for comfort. And ultimately, that pressure does end up converting to opportunities, and ultimately, in this case, unfortunately, goals on the scoreboard against.
Yeah, it felt like as well. Canberra did a really good job with their gap control and making it difficult for zone entries, and we turned the puck over a lot. Just around that metre inside the offensive blue line, and it allowed Canberra to be able to counter, and I thought their lines looked really solid today. I spoke about it yesterday in the commentary, but that third line, even though they didn't get on the score sheet necessarily, like Kai Miettinen, Scott Clemmy, former Bear, Scott Clemmy, and Mitch Henning, they really dominated their shifts, and they were heavy. And by the time the puck gets exited out of the offensive zone or out of the defensive zone from the Bears' point of view, you've just got to change, because you're absolutely exhausted, and that nullifies opportunities to be able to generate chances on the break. It looked like a good old cup caliber team in the Brave.
Yeah, summary. I mean, the shot totals: Bears 25, 8 first period, 7 second, 10 in the third. Canberra 48, 20 in the first, 14 in the second, 14 in the third. Canberra converted on 2 out of 5 power plays, but I mentioned to you fellas in the rink that their power play was just so organised. They looked to threat every time they got in the zone on the power play. They set up. They were very patient. Bates provides that sort of flash and dash. He sometimes picks the puck up with speed, and he'll skate at defenders and commit them, which creates space for them to get those controlled zone entries. But they looked very, very dangerous, and 2 out of 5 was probably somewhat of a slight injustice to them on the power play. Hayden had loads of company in the crease. It seemed as though he was on his knees looking for pucks right in front of him, and the boys were manfully trying to box the Brave out. But as you say, they play this heavy game, and they're always in the right space. They kind of play a man in front, almost 2 bumpers on the power play. But Bates plays off the half wall, and he just is such a classy player, skates beautifully. So the boys were really, really up against it today. And I have to, again, just tip my hat to the way that Canberra set themselves up. They set themselves up to succeed. They're very patient, and they're clinical when the chances come.
And I do wonder as well, and I can't talk from a player's perspective, of course, but the unique scale of the rink in Canberra, I do wonder if that's perhaps a factor here in terms of their familiarity. But one thing I noticed, Canberra were always in lanes.
Yeah.
They had touches on pucks, they had active sticks, they had bodies in front of pucks. It's almost like there was never a lane open.
No.
And it does also make me wonder with that condensed space. They do have a lot of big bodies,
Yeah.
and I think that was quite evident watching the game live. They seem to smother our guys a lot. And of course, they've got a mature roster, they've got an experienced roster, they've got some grown men and some big bodies, but it just seemed very prominent throughout the game. And you mentioned, Matt, Bates and his ability off the half wall. He was setting up Jake Ratcliffe there in periods. Jake Ratcliffe saw a bunch of high quality slot chances as well. Yeah. And I just felt like we, for whatever reason, we found it difficult to sort of nullify that connection that those two players had, and it was a constant threat for us. So these are just some of the trends that I sort of saw throughout the game, particularly probably in the second and third period.
Yeah. One thing, just picking up on the way that Canberra set themselves up when not in possession, it looked to me like a 2-2-1. Noah got us a goal back. We got to 3-5 and then quickly conceded 3-6. But what that meant for us is we couldn't get through the neutral zone. So many stretch passes, trying to use the speed of the young guys. But again, those weren't really hitting. We were either icing the puck, or Canberra were, then setting up again and moving the puck back up ice. So obviously that sort of defensive structure is equally as impressive as their offensive structure, and they use that very effectively to make teams play a style that isn't going to be overly effective against their big bodies and against their tight structure in that smaller sort of ice surface. But just almost a sort of home ice masterclass, wasn't it, at times today?
Yeah, I feel like they put on perhaps the most polished and complete performance that I've seen out of an opposition team this year. And again, I don't want to use our forum as an opportunity to parade another team around, but I also think you need to acknowledge a good performance when you see one, and I think the Brave did put a pretty complete mature performance out there today, which made it really tough for our guys. And you mentioned the neutral zone, Matt. How many times throughout the game did we mention where we were sitting there that we just didn't seem to, command, any real, assertiveness throughout the neutral zone at any point in the game, which makes it really difficult.
Yeah, and the Brave, I mean, they were excellent. They've, keep in mind, they've made a lot of other very good teams look ordinary at points at AIS, and I have no doubt will do so during this season. I think about the players that we were missing as well. Missing Nick Seitz, obviously on that top line, missing Tommy Lander. Going back, you can do revise history all you like, but you can't deny that Nick Seitz, who's a guy who scored 14 goals for us, wouldn't have made a difference in that game. And even if it means moving Nalos back down to the third line where he looked so effective against the Brisbane Lightning last weekend, just providing a bit of better balance to the group.
Yeah, and Nick does for us the very things that Bates does for Canberra. He drives at defenders, he uses speed, he makes them commit, creates space for for Herms and Gustav. So yeah, I think we very much missed his dynamism today. And I did say during the game it would have been really cool to see those two guys sort of head to head, using their creativity to drive play for the respective sides. Nathan, a little bit of an update on Logan Brodie.
Yeah, so Logan obviously took a hit. I believe it was at the start of the second period. He is okay, but you never want to see one of you guys go down, particularly in that fashion. He was obviously a little bit shaken up after the hit, and again, very thankful for our staff and the people that were behind the bench to attend to him. But he is okay. For those listening, he is okay.
Yeah, he's been such a good player this season. So yeah, thoughts with him and his family, and hopefully he recovers well. First and foremost, Hugo Arps moved up to that second line, and he looked pretty effective too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bright spots of the weekend again, the play of the young kids. Hugo looked great today. He's got a heck of a shot on him. That quick release. I saw him, throwing his body around a little bit in the ozone, trying to stand up for himself, which is always good to see. And Gustav and Ruben do exactly the same. So I think we've got to look at the positives here. The play of the kids is just really encouraging. And on any other given day, Hugo's shot would have gone in, and we might have been looking at a different scenario at the start of the second. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah, so we move on now, and let's look ahead to next weekend. Unless there's any final thoughts that you guys want to share about the game.
No, look, I think apart from the fact that I'd love to see our fit squad go up against the Brave.
Yeah.
You mentioned Nick before, but obviously, guys like Tommy Lander as well. It would have been nice to see, what we could do against those guys with some more fit bodies. But I'm sure we'll get that opportunity later in the season. And further to what you said, Matt, the kids, and I hate sort of throwing that label around, but let's just use it for the purpose of this conversation. The kids were immense again this weekend. Huge compete level, great production, very prominent, shift on shift, and that's certainly very promising for the rest of the season and beyond as well.
We head up to Newcastle on Saturday. Newcastle have they've dropped down the standings now with Perth in first place now, Newcastle in second, the Brave third, Mustangs fourth, we're in fifth, Ice Dogs sixth, and then the Melbourne Ice just 2 points in behind the Ice Dogs in seventh. So we've got a big weekend coming up. Newcastle, we mentioned their form has dropped off a little bit since they last played us. They've in the last 7 games they've gone 3 wins, 4 losses. How are you feeling about this Saturday's game, Nathan? How do you think we're positioned?
Well, I think we've actually put in 2 good performances against the North Stars this season. We haven't, unfortunately, had anything to show from that. But I feel like, again, we've probably proven that we can skate with those guys. We just need to convert it into results. North Stars, we have a great rivalry with those guys. Our games are always, well fought, always a good crowd. There's a lot of emotion in these games. So hopefully, this time around, we can put our best foot forward and hopefully bring some points back home heading into the game on Sunday.
Yep. And thoughts on the game on Sunday? We'll be at home hosting the Central Coast Rhinos, Matt.
Yeah, it feels like a big game again. 2 episodes ago we were, celebrating our track record since we started the pod and taking an enormous amount of claim for our win streak. But it feels, I think, Nathan, you mentioned last week the 6-point games. I think that just moves on to next week. We need to rebound, regroup, draw on the positives of this weekend and, see if we can capitalise on Newcastle slightly faltering. We know what the Rhinos can do. Bouchard just runs the show for them. They've got some very fast and skilled players up front. But we've got to double down and bring that application and work ethic and really grab the points at Macquarie. I think it's hugely important that we get maximum points from that game and try and get as much as we can out of the game against Newcastle on Saturday.
I also think for us, we've sat here the last few weeks saying, we've got some good performances and we have accumulated some points, but we are getting to a point now where you need to find a way to continually accumulate points on a consistent basis, particularly in the league this year where we've got, perhaps the most competitive and close-fought, group of teams and, a battle towards the finals that perhaps we've ever seen. We need to find a way to navigate a path where we are accumulating points against, good opposition. I think you might have mentioned last week that we don't have any remaining games against teams that are, well, at least at that point, any more than 3 points out of a playoff position. So, the schedule may not necessarily be in our favour, but at the moment, we've just got to find a way. We've got to find, a path to, keep chipping away each week, coming out of weekends with points in the bank, and hope that, we can find a way to get, our full group together as soon as possible, heading into the back end of the season and putting ourselves in a position to come away with what we aim to achieve for the season.
Yeah, because you can look at it, the schedule a couple of ways, right? Like you can look at it and think, oh man, this is really hard, but you look at it and this is an opportunity. You're going head to head against teams that are either above you, just chasing you, or at your level, and by the end of it, you're going to be battle hardened, hopefully heading into Melbourne for finals, and confident with having had that kind of track record and behind you that you can take on and beat anybody.
Yeah, as a young man growing up in the UK,
here we go.
Now. Those dominant Liverpool FC teams of the 70s and 80s, they didn't play well every week, but they found a way to win. So to reinforce your point, Nathan, it's implausible for us to play, gold star hockey every week. If we can grind results out to a degree where we're picking up points here and there, that's a recipe for success and something that the boys will learn from. It provides a foundation for us to build on in future seasons. We're really, really entering an important phase of the season now.
Would you say entering as well, like an important stage for some of these players' growth? We've got a lot of rookies on the team, Nathan.
If you look back years past, any team that has tasted success through the back end of a regular season into finals, you need all of your plates spinning. You need your import group active, available and producing, and you need that local support act to play their roles and provide secondary scoring playing their roles. In an instance where we've got our full roster available, I think we've got a configuration where we've got a really nice balanced lineup, where you've got a nice spread of the import contribution and certainly a large local contingent, particularly at forward. We've got a number of young guys who have stepped up to the plate and taken opportunities and proved their capability in this league and proven their ability to produce at a good clip, and move up and down the lineup and play different roles. So you just need all of that to come together. You need people complementing each other, everyone sort of playing their respective role in the puzzle, and hope that you get a bit of luck and some puck bounces along the way. I feel very confident in our collective group. It's just a matter of having everyone click at the same time, and I think we should be very optimistic about what the last third of the regular season and beyond can look like.
Yeah, so we did interview last weekend. We interviewed head coach Ryan Ainsley, Dexter Moselle, and Noah Moncrief, and they all spoke about the young players who are part of the team and the bright future of the Sydney Bears, as well as I know Dexter Moselle, his ambitions for the season. So we'll include them in the episode of the pod at the conclusion. Any final thoughts, gents?
Well, I think we've had a spectacular weekend. I think results haven't gone our way, but Saturday night at Macquarie was awesome again. The atmosphere as we scored that equalising goal in the last minute and a half was outstanding. Today didn't go so well, but we've had some fun. Good trip down. Nathan, I know I've taken the mickey out of you a lot. We had a great time at the rink. Lovely meal. We've also met some amazing people over the course of the weekend. So everyone who's come up to us and said hi and introduced themselves and mentioned that they listen to us, we really, really appreciate that. I've just got one final request. Dex, please grow your tash back. I think we need your superpowers, and the superpowers might sit in that moustache of yours, mate.
Yeah, look, I certainly second that. So a bit of a directive there to Dex, mate. Let's get this thing done. Saturday, look, a huge thanks to the fans. It was alive, great energy. When Gus evened the scoreline, I must admit, I thought the momentum and the crowd's involvement in the game was hopefully going to be enough for us. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but just a huge shout out and a big thanks to the fans who are really starting to bring it. I think over the last 2, maybe 3 weeks, the building has been consistently loud. From my perspective, I've been standing in the same vantage spot, and I've noticed a huge sort of uptick in the noise and the involvement from the crowd. And today it was really nice to see the volume of travelling fans. Even walking out of the arena, there were 2 separate pockets of our fans, which was fantastic to see. Some familiar faces as well. Kat, Sheepy, great to see you. Andrew and co. So keep supporting the boys in numbers, and we've got a lot to look forward to for the next few weeks.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks very much for listening. There's so many people have come up and said that they've just listened to the pod either before the game or in the car, and that's pretty cool.
And I must say, you look really good in that sweatshirt. Finally,
it's a medium. For the first time ever, you called me fat 2 weeks ago.
It fits you down to a T.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for listening. We will put those interviews in at the conclusion. In the meantime, feel free, give us a follow on socials. You would keep up to date with all random stats that I put together, and random Bears news as well. And we'll see you next week.
And thank you for putting up with us this week. This is very unstructured, very rogue. So thanks for bearing with us. If you're still listening, thank you.
Talk us through this next generation of the Bears that's coming through.
Yeah, look, it's a young group of uber skilled individuals, and they love to play the game. And I think since I've been here 10 years, I've never seen a crop of guys with this much potential all in one area. Like it's such a dream for a coach to have that many guys that you know you can throw out there at any situation.
And you've been around the league for a few years. How was it to see Hugo Arp score his very first career AIHL goal?
Amazing. I still remember my first 19 years old against the Rhinos, so it's a special feeling. Him doing it so young too. It's a testament to this rookie pool we have coming through. You know, I want to be a Bear for the rest of my life, and seeing that coming up with me as well, you know, for the next 15, 20 years, however long, it gets me really excited, really, for the future. You know, we've got a bright future ahead of us, and doing that at 16, I don't even want to think about what he's doing at 26. You know, he's going to be insane. All of them are going to be insane. So, yeah, it was special.
Well, the future of the Sydney Bears looks bright, right? I wasn't here last year, but taking that year off, I guess the organization had an opportunity to maybe reset, bring some guys in, leave some guys behind. However that works, I'm not too familiar, but for this year, a lot of guys came back to the organization, which is a phenomenal sign. If we were to grow older as an organization year by year, I mean, I think we're in great steps, and ultimately we want to win this year. Right, that's the goal. You play to win, you know, and so we're putting ourselves in a good spot, in a quality spot for a good playoff position, and ultimately that will be the best test to see our growth. And so, however we do down the stretch will help us in the future. But I mean, we've got some excellent imports that are loving the whole situation, the whole experience. Like Nick Seist is an awesome person, right? Awesome player as well. Herman's an awesome person and player. We got a lot of great people in our dressing room and a lot of great players as well, which is very important as an organization. And I'm very happy with the direction this team is going. I think everyone can say the same.